Number they asked Earth for repairs but got upgrades, coffee, and a human war fleet. Instead, Number. Part 1. The Distress Call. The Velaran ship was dying. Captain Telos could feel it in the way the floor shook under his feet. He could hear it in the terrible sounds that came from the engine room. The Time's gentle dawn times had traveled across many star systems, but now it was falling apart in the middle of nowhere. Telos stood on the bridge with his crew around him. They were all scared. The Velorans were a peaceful species. They had smooth, shiny scales that changed color with their emotions. Right now, everyone's scales were pale gray. The color of fear. "Captain," said his navigator, a young female named Lyra. "The reactor is failing. We have maybe 6 hours before it stops completely. 6 hours. After that, no power, no heat, no air. They would all die in the cold darkness of space." Telos looked at the star map on his screen. There was only one planet close enough to reach in time, a small blue world called Earth. He had heard stories about the species that lived there. Humans, they called themselves, a young race. They had only been traveling in space for about 200 years. In a galaxy full of ancient civilizations, that was nothing. But Telos had no choice. "Send a distress signal to Earth," he ordered. "Tell them we need emergency repairs. Tell them we will pay whatever they want." The message went out into the darkness. Telos sat in his chair and waited. He did not expect much. Most species in the galaxy did not help strangers. Why would they? There was nothing to gain from helping a dying ship full of aliens. Far away, on a space station orbiting Earth, a man named Park Do-hyun was drinking his third cup of coffee. It was almost 4 in the morning, and his shift was supposed to be quiet. Do-hyun was the commander of Orbital Station Horizon. He was 45 years old with tired eyes and gray hair at his temples. He had been doing this job for 15 years. His second in command, Lieutenant Kim Yuna, was the first to notice the signal. She was young and sharp, with quick fingers that moved fast across her computer. "Commander," she said, "we are receiving a distress call. It is from an alien vessel." Do-hyun put down his coffee cup. "Show me." The message appeared on the main screen. It was in a language they had never seen before, but the translation software worked fast. Within seconds, they could read it. "They are Velorans," Yuna said. "Their ship is called the Time's Gentle Dawn **. Their reactor is failing. They say they have 6 hours. Do-hyun did not need to think about it. "Bring them in," he said. "Wake up the engineering teams. All of them." Yuna looked surprised. "All of them, sir?" "It is 4 in the morning. I know what time it is, Lieutenant. Wake them up." Down in the station's living area, Chief Engineer Lee Sunwoo was pulled out of his bed by a loud alarm. He was a big man with thick arms and hands that had fixed 1,000 machines. He complained loudly as he put on his uniform. But he was already thinking about the problem ahead. When the Time's Gentle Dawn times finally reached the station, it looked terrible. There were burn marks all over the outside. Smoke was coming from several places. It was a miracle the ship was still flying at all. The Veloran crew came out slowly. They were strange creatures to human eyes, tall and thin with scales that shimmered in the light. Their eyes were large and dark. They moved carefully, like they expected to be attacked at any moment. Captain Telos approached the human commander. He did not know what to expect. Would they demand payment first? Would they take his crew prisoner and steal his ship? These things happened in the galaxy. He had heard the stories, but the human just smiled at him and held out his hand. "Welcome to Horizon Station," Park Do-hyun said. "Let us take a look at your ship." Sunwoo and his engineering team were already moving toward the Time's Gentle Dawn *. There were about 20 of them, carrying tools and equipment. They talked loudly to each other, making jokes and laughing. Telos did not understand. His ship was dying. What was funny about that? The human engineers went inside the Time's Gentle Dawn times and found the engine room. Sunwoo took one look at the reactor and stopped walking. Then he did something that shocked the Veloran crew completely. He laughed. "This design is 300 years old," Sunwoo said to his team. No wonder it is failing. Who still uses this kind of reactor? One of the Valoran engineers stepped forward. His name was Vaughn, and he had spent his whole life taking care of this ship. We know it is old, he said quietly. We cannot afford new technology. We just need you to fix it enough so we can reach the next station. Sunwoo shook his head. Fix it? No, no, no. We are not going to fix this piece of junk. He turned to his team. Strip it out. We are putting in one of ours. Vaughn did not understand. One of yours? But that would be too expensive. We cannot pay for. Who said anything about paying? Sunwoo was already pulling tools from his bag. Listen, friend. I am an engineer. When I see a bad machine, I do not put a bandage on it. I make it better. Now, stand back and let us work. For the next 4 hours, the Valoran crew watched in complete shock. The humans worked like they were possessed by some kind of spirit. They ripped out the old reactor and carried in a new one. They replaced the life support system. They upgraded the navigation computer. They even fixed small things that the Valorans had never complained about, simply because they noticed they could be improved. A young human technician named Cho Minji was working on the ship's communication system when she noticed Captain Telos standing nearby. He looked tired and confused. Minji felt sorry for him. She reached into her bag and pulled out a metal container. Here, she said, pouring a dark liquid into a cup. This is called coffee. You look like you need it. Telos had never seen coffee before. He smelled it carefully. It had a strong, strange smell. He took a small sip. The effect was immediate. His eyes went wide. His scales turned a bright blue color. Energy rushed through his body like electricity. What is this? He asked. Minji smiled. Human fuel. Careful, it is strong. By the time the sun rose over Earth, the Times Gentle Dawn Times was no longer a dying ship. It was reborn. The new reactor was twice as powerful as the old one. The navigation system was 50 years ahead of anything the Valorans had ever used. The ship could fly faster, farther, and safer than ever before. Telos stood in his engine room and could not believe what he was seeing. This was not a repair. This was a complete transformation. He found Commander Park Do-hyun and tried to give him money. He tried to offer trade goods. He tried to offer future services. The human refused everything. You were in trouble, Do-hyun said simply. We helped. That is what neighbors do. But we are not your neighbors, Telos said. We come from the other side of the galaxy. We are strangers. Do-hyun smiled and put a hand on the alien's shoulder. Not anymore. As the Times Gentle Dawn Times flew away from Earth, Captain Telos sat in his chair and drank another cup of coffee. He had brought a whole case of it with him. A gift. From Cho Minji. He thought about everything that had happened. The humans had helped him without asking for anything in return. They had worked through the night for complete strangers. They had given him technology worth more than his entire ship. In a galaxy full of species who only cared about themselves, Telos had found something rare. He had found kindness. He did not know it yet. But this was only the beginning. The story of the humans was just starting to spread. And soon, the entire galaxy would learn what it meant to have humanity as a neighbor. Telos finished his coffee and smiled. His scales turned a warm golden color, the color of hope. They asked Earth for repairs, but got upgrades, coffee, and a human war fleet instead. Part 2. The debt that wasn't. The Valoran High Council met in their great hall on their home world. The hall was very old, built thousands of years ago when the Valorans first became a civilization. The walls were made of white stone that glowed softly in the light. 12 elders sat in a circle, their scales showing different colors as they discussed important matters. Today, they were discussing the humans. Captain Telos stood in the center of the circle. He had traveled for 3 weeks to bring his report in person. The council needed to hear this story directly from him. They fixed your ship, Elder Voss said slowly. He was the oldest member of the council. His scales had faded to a dull silver color over the years. And they asked for nothing? Hey B, thanks for watching. Nothing, Telos confirmed. I tried to pay them. They refused. I offered trade goods. They said no. I promised future services. They told me it was not necessary. The elders looked at each other. This did not make sense. In the galaxy, every species wanted something. The strong took from the weak. The rich exploited the poor. This was how things worked. This was how things had always worked. There must be a debt, Elder Voss insisted. They are planning something. They will come to collect later. No species gives freely. Perhaps they are stupid, suggested another elder named Kira. Her scales were a nervous yellow color. Perhaps they do not understand how the galaxy works. Telos shook his head. I do not think they are stupid. Their technology was very advanced. Their engineers understood things our scientists have never seen. They improved my ship in ways we could not imagine. Then they must want something, Voss said. We need to find out what it is before they come to take it. The council decided to send an ambassador to Earth. They needed to understand these humans. They needed to know what they really wanted. In the galaxy, there was always a price. Always. The ambassador they chose was a young female named Ceres. She was smart and careful. Her scales rarely changed color because she had learned to control her emotions. This made her perfect for diplomacy. She could hide her true feelings from anyone. Ceres traveled to Earth expecting to find a trap. She expected the humans to finally reveal their true nature. They would demand payment. They would threaten war. They would try to make the Velerans their servants. This was how the galaxy worked. But Earth surprised her. The human who greeted her was a woman named Baek Jisoo. She was the director of the United Earth Diplomatic Corps. She was in her 50s with short gray hair and eyes that seemed to see everything. She had spent her life talking to alien species. She knew how to be patient. Welcome to Earth, Ambassador Ceres, Jisoo said warmly. Please, come inside. We have prepared tea for you. They sat in a beautiful room with large windows that showed the city below. Ceres had never seen a human city before. It was loud and busy. People walked everywhere, talking and laughing. Vehicles flew through the air in neat lines. Buildings reached up toward the sky like silver fingers. Your cities are very busy, Ceres observed. Jisoo nodded. Humans like to be busy. We get restless if we have nothing to do. A servant brought tea. It was a warm, pleasant drink, much gentler than the coffee Ceres had heard about in Captain Telos's report. She drank carefully while she thought about how to start the conversation. Director Baek, she said finally, I must be honest with you. My council is confused about what happened with the Times Gentle Dawn asterisk. We do not understand why you helped them. What is there to understand? Jisoo asked. They were in trouble. We helped. But you asked for nothing in return. This is not how things work in the galaxy. Jisoo put down her teacup and looked at the young ambassador with kind eyes. Perhaps that is true for other species. But we are human. We do things differently. How? Why? Because we remember what it is like to struggle, Jisoo said. Not very long ago, humans were killing each other over small pieces of land on our own planet. We had wars that lasted for years. Millions of people died. We almost destroyed ourselves. Ceres listened carefully. This was not what she expected to hear, but we survived, Jisoo continued. We learned. We realized that helping each other was better than fighting each other. When we finally reached the stars, we decided to bring that lesson with us. So you help everyone? Even strangers? Especially strangers. The galaxy is a big place, Ambassador. It is full of dangers and difficulties. If we do not help each other, who will? Ceres did not know what to say. In her entire life, she had never heard a species talk like this. Every civilization she knew about put themselves first. Every species fought for power and resources. The idea of helping strangers just because they needed help was completely foreign to her. What do you want from us? She asked again. There must be something, Jisoo smiled. We want you to be our friends. That is all. We want good relations between our species. We want to trade fairly. We want to share knowledge and culture. We want to be neighbors. Neighbors. Saris repeated the word. Captain Telos had mentioned this word in his report. What does this word mean to humans? End one. End one. The ported Dr. And Captain Telos, a neighbor is someone who lives near you, Jisoo explained. But it also means something more. A neighbor is someone you look out for. Someone you help when they need it. Someone who helps you when you need it. Not because you have to, not because you will get something back, but because that is what good neighbors do. Saris stayed on Earth for 1 month. During that time, she saw many things that she did not expect. She saw humans sharing food with strangers on the street. She saw them stopping to help people who had fallen down. She saw children giving toys to other children they had never met. She saw doctors traveling to poor areas to help sick people for free. But she also saw something else, something that worried her. She saw the human military. One day, Jisoo took her to visit a place called the United Earth Navy Training Center. There, young humans were learning how to fight. They trained with weapons. They practiced combat. They learned how to fly warships and fire missiles. I thought you were a peaceful species, Saris said, confused. Jisoo nodded. We are peaceful, but we are not weak. There is a difference. Why do you need such a large military? You have been in space for only 200 years. Who are you planning to fight? Jisoo's eyes became serious. We are not planning to fight anyone, Ambassador. But we have learned from our history. Peace does not protect itself. If you want peace, you must be strong enough to defend it. Saris watched the young soldiers training. They moved with perfect discipline. Their faces were focused and determined. She realized something that made her scales turn pale. These humans were kind. They were generous. They helped strangers and asked for nothing in return. But if anyone threatened them or their friends, they would fight. And they would win. On her last night on Earth, Saris stood on a balcony and looked at the stars. Jisoo came to stand beside her. You are worried about something, Jisoo observed. Saris did not answer right away. She was thinking about her report to the High Council. How could she explain what she had learned? How could she make them understand? Director Bake, she said finally. I came here expecting to find a trap. I expected you to be like every other species in the galaxy. I expected you to be selfish and dangerous. And what did you find? I found something much more terrifying. Saris turned to look at the human woman. You are kind. Truly kind. You help others because you believe it is right. You do not calculate what you will get in return. You just help. Why is that terrifying? Because kindness backed by strength is the most dangerous thing in the galaxy, Saris said quietly. The Valorans are a weak species. We have survived by being careful, by hiding, by not making enemies. But you humans do not hide. You reach out. You make friends, and you have the power to protect those friends. Jisoo smiled softly. Is that such a bad thing? I do not know, Saris admitted. But I know that the galaxy has never seen anything like you before. And I think everything is about to change. She was right. But neither of them knew just how soon that change would come. 3 weeks after Saris returned home, a new message arrived from the Valoran scout ships. A message that would bring humanity face to face with the true darkness of the galaxy. The Keth Dominion had heard about Earth, and they were coming. They asked Earth, for repairs, but got upgrades, coffee, and a human war fleet. Instead, Part 3. The Warning. The Valoran scout ship came out of hyperspace at full speed. It was a small vessel, built for watching and running away, not for fighting. The pilot inside was scared. His scales were completely white with fear. Lieutenant Han Unji was working the night shift at Earth's main communications center when she received the emergency signal. She was a young woman with sharp eyes and quick hands. She had been trained to stay calm in difficult situations, but this signal made even her heart beat faster. This is urgent, the Valoran pilot shouted through the transmission. I must speak to your leaders immediately. The Keth are coming. The Keth are coming to Earth. Unji had never heard of the Keth before, but the fear in the alien's voice told her everything she needed to know. This was bad. This was very bad. Within 1 hour, Earth's highest military leaders were gathered in a secure room. Admiral Yoon Tae-hyuk sat at the head of the table. He was 60 years old, with a face that had seen many battles. He had commanded the United Earth Navy for 15 years. Under his leadership, the human fleet had grown from a small defense force into something much more powerful. Also in the room was Ambassador Saris. She had been on Earth for a diplomatic visit when the warning arrived. Now she stood before the human leaders, with her scales showing a mixture of fear and shame. "Tell them," Admiral Yoon said quietly. "Tell them everything." Saris took a deep breath. The Keth Dominion is one of the oldest empires in the galaxy. They have conquered 40 star systems. They enslave every species they encounter. Those who resist are destroyed completely. "How strong are they?" asked Lieutenant Shin Ha-young, the Admiral's personal aide. She was young, but very intelligent. She always asked the right questions. "Very strong," Saris said. "Their war fleet is massive. Their soldiers are bred for combat. They have been fighting and winning for thousands of years. And they are coming here? Why?" Saris's scales turned a guilty shade of purple. "Because of us. Because of the times, Gentle Dawn **. The Keth have spies everywhere. They heard about how Earth helped our ship. They heard about your technology. They are curious about you." Admiral Yoon leaned forward. "What do you mean by curious?" "The Keth do not like unknowns. When they discover a new species, they send an evaluation fleet. If they decide the species is weak, they enslave them. If they decide the species is a threat, they destroy them completely." The room was silent. Every human leader was thinking the same thing. This was not a simple meeting. This was a judgment. Life or death. "How long until they arrive?" the Admiral asked. 3 weeks, maybe less." Admiral Yoon stood up slowly. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. For a long moment, he said nothing. Everyone in the room waited for him to speak. "Lieutenant Shin," he said finally. "Contact Fleet Command. I want every combat-ready vessel in the Sol system within 10 days. Ha-young nodded and began typing on her communication device. But Saris stepped forward with a confused expression. "Every vessel? Surely you mean just a defense formation. A show of strength. The Keth do not want to fight if they do not have to. If you show them some power, they might leave you alone." Admiral Yoon turned to face her. His eyes were hard as stone. "Ambassador, you do not understand. Humans do not do defensive formations. We do not show some power and hope for the best. When someone comes to our home to decide if they should enslave or destroy us, we do not play games. Then what do? We prepare for war." Over the next 10 days, Saris watched something that she would never forget. She watched humanity mobilize for battle. Ships began arriving from every corner of human space. First came the destroyers. Small, fast ships with powerful weapons. Then came the cruisers. Medium ships built for long battles. Then came the battleships. Massive vessels that could fight for days without stopping. And then came the carriers. Saris had heard about human carriers, but she had never seen one. They were enormous. Each carrier held hundreds of small fighter ships inside. Each carrier was like a flying city of war. Day after day, more ships arrived. The space around Earth became crowded with metal and fire. Saris counted them. After 5 days, she stopped counting. There were too many. "How is this possible?" she asked Lieutenant Shin one day. "You have only been a spacefaring species for 200 years. How do you have so many warships?" Ha-young smiled sadly. "Because we remember. Ambassador, we remember what it was like to be weak. We remember being prey. We remember the times when stronger nations invaded weaker ones and took everything. We promised ourselves that we would never be prey again. But you have been at peace for generations. Peace does not mean we forget. It means we prepare. It means we build. It means we train, just in case. On the seventh day, Saris finally got to see the full human fleet formation. Admiral Yoon took her to a viewing platform on Orbital Station Horizon. Commander Park Do-hyun was there too, the same man who had first answered the Times Gentle Dawn's Times distress call all those months ago. "Look," Do-hyun said, pointing at the stars. Saris looked. Her breath caught in her throat. Ships. Hundreds of ships. They filled the sky like a metal cloud. Destroyers in the front. Cruisers in the middle. Battleships forming a solid wall. And behind them, the carriers, slowly releasing swarms of fighters, like insects from a hive. "How many?" she whispered. Do-hyun checked his datapad. 437 combat vessels. Plus support ships. Plus fighters. Approximately 1,200 units in total. Saris could not speak. She had seen the Keth fleet once. From a distance. It had terrified her. But this human fleet was bigger. Much bigger. "Admiral," she said finally. "I have to ask. Why are you doing this? You could hide. You could try to negotiate. You could offer to pay tribute. Many species survive that way." Admiral Yoon looked at her with those hard eyes. But there was something else in them now. Something warm. "Ambassador, do you know why the Times Gentle Dawn Times came to us for help?" Saris did not understand the question. "Because they were dying. Because we were the closest planet." "Yes, and we helped them. We fixed their ship. We gave them coffee." A small smile crossed his face. "Do you know what happened after that? Other ships started coming to us. Small traders, lost travelers, damaged freighters. Word spread that the humans helped anyone who asked." "I know. That is why the Keth noticed you." "Exactly." The Admiral turned back to the fleet. "If we hide now, if we pay tribute, if we bow to the Keth, what message does that send?" "It tells the galaxy that we are just like everyone else. It tells them that our kindness was weakness. But if you fight, if we fight, we show everyone what we really are. We show them that humans protect their friends. We show them that our kindness is backed by steel. We show them that the galaxy has finally found a species that will stand up to bullies." Saris felt tears forming in her large dark eyes. "But you might lose. The Keth are powerful." Admiral Yoon laughed. It was a warm sound. Not mocking. "Ambassador, we are humans. We do not fight because we know we will win. We fight because it is right. We fight because someone has to. We fight because that is who we are." He put a hand on her shoulder. "The Valorans asked us for repairs. They asked for a little bit of help. But that is not who we are. When we help, we do not do it halfway. When we fight, we do not fight halfway. We give everything we have. Always." Saris looked at the massive fleet surrounding Earth. She thought about the Keth warlords coming to judge humanity. She thought about all the species in the galaxy who lived in fear of the strong. For the first time in her life, she felt something she had never felt before. She felt hope. "Admiral," she said quietly, "what do you need from us? How can the Valorans help?" Yoon smiled. "Stay with us, Ambassador. Watch. And when this is over, tell your council what you saw. Tell them that the galaxy is about to change." 3 days later, the Keth evaluation fleet appeared on the edge of the solar system. The war for Earth was about to begin. They asked Earth for repairs, but got upgrades, coffee, and a human war fleet. Instead, Number. Part 4. The Arrival. The Keth warfleet came out of hyperspace like a storm breaking through clouds. 30 massive warships. Each one was black as night and covered with weapons. The Keth did not believe in beauty. They believed in power. Warlord Vectis stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Times Iron Claw *. He was a terrifying creature. 8 feet tall with 4 arms and skin like gray stone. His face had 4 red eyes that never blinked. 2 massive tusks curved up from his lower jaw. He had destroyed 12 civilizations in his lifetime. He had burned planets to ash. He had enslaved billions. He was the most feared commander in the Keth Dominion, and he expected this mission to be easy. "Show me the human fleet," he commanded. The tactical display appeared before him. Vectis looked at it. Then he looked again. Then he turned to his intelligence officer with fury in his eyes. "Your scouts reported 50 vessels," he growled. "What is this?" The display showed nearly 500 human ships. They were arranged in a perfect defensive formation around the blue planet called Earth. Destroyers at the edges, cruisers in the middle, battleships forming a solid wall, and behind them, enormous carriers that seemed to be waiting for something. The intelligence officer's gray skin turned pale. "Warlord, our scouts. They must have made an error. This is impossible. The humans are a young species. They cannot have this many ships." Vectis grabbed the officer with one of his 4 hands and lifted him off the ground. "Find me the truth. Now." The officer checked his data again and again. Finally, he found something. "Warlord, the human vessels came from all across their territory. They have been gathering for weeks. It seems they knew we were coming." Vectis dropped the officer and turned back to the display. His 4 eyes studied the human formation carefully. He was a warrior. He respected strength. And he had to admit, this was a strong position, but the Keth were stronger. They had been fighting wars for 10,000 years. These humans had been in space for only 2 centuries. "Open a communication channel," Vectis ordered. "Let us talk to these humans." On the bridge of the human flagship Times, Indomitable Asterisk, Admiral Yoon Tae-hyuk stood calm and still. Around him, hundreds of officers worked at their stations. The bridge was quiet, except for the soft sounds of computers and the hum of the great engines. Captain Kang Soo-jin, the flag captain, stood beside her admiral. She was a tall woman with silver hair tied back in a tight braid. She had served under Yoon for 20 years. She knew how he thought. She knew how he fought. "The Keth are opening a communication channel," she reported. "Put it on the main screen." The face of Warlord Vectis appeared. It was an ugly face. A cruel face. A face that had ordered the deaths of countless beings. "Humans," Vectis rumbled. His voice was deep like thunder. "You have impressive numbers. But numbers mean nothing against Keth might. I offer you a choice. Surrender the Valoran ambassador, who hides among you. Withdraw your fleet. Bow before the Keth Dominion, and we may spare your world." Admiral Yoon did not answer immediately. Instead, he picked up a cup from the arm of his chair. He took a long, slow sip. Coffee. The drink humans loved more than anything. Vectis waited. His 4 eyes narrowed with impatience. Finally, Yoon put down his cup. "Warlord," he said calmly, "I am going to give you one chance to leave this system peacefully. Not because I am afraid of you, but because my people have a saying, never start a fight, but always finish it." "You dare to threaten the Keth Dominion?" Vectis roared. "No, sir. I am making you a promise." Admiral Yoon made a small gesture with his hand. The communication channel closed. Vectis's face disappeared from the screen. Captain Soo-jin looked at her admiral. "You know they will attack now?" "Yes. Are we ready?" Yoon smiled. It was a thin smile, but it was real. "Captain, we were born ready." The Battle of Seoul began at 1447 Earth time. Warlord Vectis ordered his fleet forward in a classic Keth attack formation. 3 waves of warships, each one designed to weaken the enemy before the next wave hit. It was a good strategy. It had worked against every enemy the Keth had ever faced. It did not work against humans. The human fleet did not stay still and wait to be hit. Instead, they moved. Small, fast destroyers raced forward and began attacking the Keth flanks. They did not try to destroy the big Keth ships. They just bit at them, over and over. Like wolves chasing a bear. Chief Tactical Officer Oh Jun-ho commanded these attacks from his station on the Times Indomitable Asterisk. He was a young man with fast fingers and faster mind. He watched dozens of screens at once, giving orders to hundreds of ships. "Wolfpack 3, move to Sector 7. Wolfpack 5, retreat and reload. Wolfpack 8, hit their supply ships. The Keth tried to swat these small ships away, but every time they turned to fight, the destroyers ran. And while the Keth were distracted, the main human fleet adjusted their position. Vectis saw what was happening. They are stalling us, he realized. They are waiting for something. What could they be waiting for? His first officer asked. As if answering his question, the human carriers opened their bays. Fighters. Thousands of fighters. They poured out of the carriers like angry insects from a broken nest. Small, fast, and deadly. Each one carried missiles that could punch through Keth armor. Flight leader Nari was at the front of the swarm. She was a small woman with short black hair and a wild smile. She had been flying since she was 16 years old. She had never lost a battle. She did not plan to lose this one. All squadrons, this is Nari, she said into her radio. Remember what we trained for. Remember why we are here. And remember the most important rule. What rule is that? Asked one of her young pilots. If you are going to die, make sure you take something expensive with you. Her squadron laughed. They were not afraid. They were excited. This was what they had trained their whole lives for. Nari pointed her fighter at a Keth cruiser. It was 10 times bigger than her ship. It had enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Any smart pilot would stay away from it. Nari flew straight at it. Come on, ugly, she whispered. Let us dance. Her squadron followed her in. They flew between the massive guns of the Keth cruiser. Too small and too fast to be hit. They fired their missiles at weak points in the armor. They circled around and fired again. The cruiser tried to turn, tried to bring its weapons to bear. But it was too slow, too big, too clumsy. 3 minutes later, the cruiser exploded. Nari flew through the debris cloud, laughing like a crazy person. One down! Who wants to help me get another one? All across the battlefield, similar scenes were happening. Human ships worked together in ways the Keth had never seen. Big ships and small ships supporting each other. Fighters and cruisers coordinating their attacks. Every human vessel knew exactly what every other vessel was doing. Warlord Vectis watched his fleet being torn apart. He could not understand it. The humans were younger. Their technology should be weaker. How were they winning? Their communication, his first officer realized. Look at how they talk to each other. It is constant. Every ship knows everything. Vectis understood. The Keth fought as individuals. Each captain made their own decisions. But the humans fought as one giant organism. They shared information instantly. They adapted immediately. They were not 500 ships. They were one ship with 500 bodies. Pull back, Vectis ordered. We need to reform our lines. But it was too late. The human battleships had moved forward. Their massive guns spoke with fire and thunder. One by one, the Keth warships began to die. 6 hours. That is how long the battle lasted. 6 hours to destroy the pride of the Keth dominion. At the end, only 9 Keth ships remained. They were surrounded. Their weapons were damaged. Their shields were failing. Warlord Vectis stood on his broken bridge and stared at the human fleet. He had lost. For the first time in his long, bloody life, he had lost. A boarding shuttle attached to his ship. He heard the sound of doors being cut open. Human soldiers were coming aboard. The first one through the door was a man named Huang Minjie. He was a Marine sergeant with a scarred face and strong arms. He held a plasma rifle in his hands and wore heavy battle armor. Behind him came 20 more Marines. They moved through the ship quickly and professionally. They were not cruel. They did not kill anyone who surrendered. But they were unstoppable. Minjie found Vectis on the bridge. The warlord stood tall, even in defeat. You fight well, human, Vectis said. Minjie pointed his rifle at the warlord's chest. On your knees. I am Warlord Vectis. I do not kneel. Minjie smiled. It was not a nice smile. He kicked the warlord's leg, hard. Vectis fell to his knees. For the first time in his life, he was a prisoner. On the Times, Indomitable ***, Admiral Yoon received the news of Vectis's capture. He nodded once, then turned to Ambassador Saris, who had watched the entire battle in stunned silence. "Ambassador," he said, "please contact the Keth Dominion. Tell them their evaluation is complete. Tell them we are keeping their warlord as our guest. And tell them that if they ever come to this region of space again, we will not be so gentle." Saris's scales had turned a bright gold color. The color of joy. The color of triumph. "Admiral," she whispered, "you have done the impossible." Yoon picked up his coffee cup. It had gone cold during the battle. He did not mind. "No, Ambassador. We just did what humans do. We protected our neighbors." Outside the viewport, the stars shone bright and peaceful. The war for Earth was over, but the story was just beginning. They asked Earth for repairs, but got upgrades, coffee, and a human war fleet. Instead, Part 5, Coffee and Consequences. The news of the Battle of Sol spread across the galaxy like fire spreading through dry grass. Within days, every species knew what had happened. The mighty Keth Dominion, the terror of 40 star systems, had been defeated by humans. A young species, a small species, a species that had been traveling among the stars for only 200 years. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. On the Valoran homeworld, the High Council met in emergency session. Elder Voss sat in his chair, his old scales showing a color no one had ever seen on him before. Amazement. "Our ambassador watched the battle," he said slowly. "She saw everything. The human fleet destroyed 60% of the Keth forces. They captured Warlord Vectis himself, and they asked for nothing in return." The other elders murmured among themselves. This was impossible. This was wonderful. This was terrifying. "What does this mean for us?" asked Elder Kira. Voss thought for a long moment. "It means everything has changed. It means the galaxy has a new power. And that power is kind." 1 month after the battle, Earth held a ceremony. It was the signing of a formal alliance between humanity and the Valorans. But many other species came to watch. They wanted to see these humans for themselves. They wanted to understand. Ambassador Saris arrived on Orbital Station Horizon for the ceremony. She was no longer just an ambassador. She was now the Valoran foreign minister. Her people had promoted her because of what she had witnessed, because she understood humans better than anyone. Commander Park Do-hyun was waiting for her when she stepped off her shuttle. He looked the same as he had all those months ago when the Time's gentle dawn times had limped into the Sol system. Tired eyes, gray hair at his temples. A warm smile. "Minister Saris," he said, bowing slightly. "Welcome back to Earth, Commander." Saris felt emotions rising in her chest. "It is good to see you again." They walked together through the station. It was much busier than before. Aliens of many species wandered the corridors. Some were diplomats. Some were traders. Some were just curious. All of them wanted to be near the humans. "You have become popular," Saris observed. Do-hyun laughed. "Too popular. We are building 3 new stations just to handle all the visitors. They want to understand you. They want to know how you did it. And what do you tell them?" Saris thought about this question. She had been asked it many times over the past month. Every species wanted to know the secret of human power. They expected complicated answers. Advanced technology, ancient wisdom, secret weapons. "I tell them the truth," she said. "I tell them that humans help people because they believe it is right. I tell them that humans fight for their friends. I tell them that humans never do anything halfway." Do-hyun nodded slowly. "Do they believe you?" "Some do, some do not. It is hard for them to accept that kindness can be so powerful." They reached the main conference hall. It was filled with beings from across the galaxy. Valoran diplomats, with their shining scales. Traders from species Saris did not recognize. Scientists who wanted to study human technology. Military leaders who wanted to understand human tactics. And in the corner, sitting alone at a small table, was something unexpected. A Keth. Sarah stopped walking. Her scales turned pale. What is that doing here? Do-hyun followed her gaze. Ah, that is Korvan. He was one of Warlord Vectis's officers. After we captured him, we offered him a choice. He could go back to the Keth Dominion as a prisoner exchange. Or he could stay here. He chose to stay? Many of the Keth prisoners did. They were tired of the endless wars, tired of serving cruel masters. They wanted something different. Do-hyun smiled softly. They wanted to learn how to be neighbors. Saris looked at the Keth called Korvan. He was a massive creature, even bigger than Vectis. His gray skin was covered with scars from many battles. But his 4 red eyes did not look cruel. They looked tired, lonely, hopeful. A young human woman was walking toward him. Saris recognized her. It was Cho Minji, the technician who had given Captain Telos his first cup of coffee. She was carrying a tray with 2 cups on it. Good morning, Korvan, Minji said cheerfully. Are you ready to try again? The Keth looked at the cups with suspicion. I am not sure. The last time I tried this drink, I could not sleep for 2 days. Minji laughed. That is because I gave you the strong kind. This is much weaker. Just try it. Korvan picked up the cup carefully. His massive hands made it look like a toy. He sniffed the dark liquid. Then, very slowly, he took a small sip. His 4 eyes went wide. All of them. This is different, he said. Good different or bad different. Korvan took another sip, then another. Good different. I think I understand now why humans love this drink. Minji sat down across from him. See? I told you that you would like it if you gave it a chance. Saris watched this scene in amazement. A human and a Keth, sitting together, sharing coffee. 6 months ago, the Keth had come to enslave or destroy humanity. Now, one of them was learning to enjoy human drinks and human friendship. How do you do it? She asked Do-hyun quietly. How do you make former enemies into friends? Do-hyun thought about this. We do not see them as former enemies. We see them as future neighbors. Everyone deserves a chance to be better. Everyone deserves kindness. Even the Keth, especially the Keth. They have known nothing but war and cruelty for thousands of years. Imagine living like that. Imagine never knowing peace. Never knowing friendship. Never knowing what it feels like to help someone just because you can. Saris looked at the Keth again. Korvan was smiling now. It was a strange smile on that battle-scarred face. But it was real. You are changing them, she realized. No, Do-hyun said. We are showing them a different way. They are changing themselves. The ceremony began an hour later. Admiral Yoon Tae-hyuk gave a speech about friendship between species. Director Baek Ji-soo signed official documents. Minister Saris spoke about hope for the future. But the moment that Saris would remember forever came after the ceremony was over. She found Commander Do-hyun standing near a window, looking out at the stars. She went to stand beside him. Just as she had months ago, when she first began to understand humans. Commander, she said, I have to ask you something. That night, when the Times Gentle Dawn Times sent its distress signal, why did you help us? You did not know us. You did not owe us anything. Why? Do-hyun was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke softly. When I was young, my grandmother told me a story. She said that, long ago, on Earth, there was a village that was very poor. One winter, they had no food. They were starving. A stranger came to the village. He was also hungry. Also cold. The villagers had almost nothing, but they shared what little food they had with him. Why? Saris asked. They needed that food themselves, because that is what good people do. They share what they have, even when it is hard, even when it costs them something. Do-hyun smiled at the memory. The stranger turned out to be a prince in disguise. He was so moved by their kindness that he gave them enough gold to feed the village for years. But my grandmother always said that was not the point of the story. What was the point? The point was that the villagers did not know he was a prince. They helped him because he was a person who needed help. That is the only reason that matters. Saris felt tears forming in her eyes. And that is why you helped the time's gentle dawn asterisk. Because we needed help, yes. And that is why you fought the Keth. Because we needed protection, yes. And that is why you are teaching former enemies to drink coffee and be friends. Because they need kindness. Do-hyun nodded. That is who we are, Minister. That is who we choose to be. The galaxy is a hard place. It is full of cruelty and war and species who take whatever they can. But it does not have to be that way. Someone has to choose to be different. Someone has to choose to be kind. And that someone is humanity? Do-hyun looked out at the stars. Thousands of ships floated peacefully in the space around Earth. Human ships. Velaran ships. Ships from a dozen other species who had come seeking friendship. Not just humanity, he said. Anyone who wants to join us. Anyone who believes that neighbors should help each other. Anyone who thinks the galaxy can be better than it is. Saris stood beside him and looked at the same stars. She thought about everything that had happened since Captain Telos first called for help. She thought about kindness and strength. She thought about coffee and war fleets. She thought about a young species that had changed everything. They will write stories about this time, she said quietly. Historians will study these days, for thousands of years. They will try to understand how it all began. And what will they say? Saris smiled. Her scales turned the brightest gold she had ever felt. They will say that a dying ship asked Earth for repairs. They expected a patch, a quick fix, just enough to keep them alive. Instead, they got upgrades. They got coffee. They got a war fleet that defeated an empire. And most importantly, they got neighbors. Do-hyun picked up his coffee cup and raised it in a toast. To neighbors, he said. Saris lifted her own cup. It was tea, not coffee. She was not brave enough for coffee yet. To neighbors, she repeated. Outside the window, the stars shone peacefully. The galaxy was changing. Hope was spreading. And it had all started with a simple act of kindness. That was the human way. It would become the galaxy's way too, in time.